My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Welcome to the Wolfe Untamed podcast, everybody. Today's guest is an American hero, John Wayne Walding. He served 12 years in the U.S. Army, 7 of those years in the Special Forces. He's the first amputee to go through Green Beret sniper training. I'm excited for this one. John, we got it done. We're here.
Easy day.
We've been talking for how many months about getting here to record, right?
Too many.
And it's finally, I really appreciate the time, brother.
No, thanks for having me.
I would like to introduce one of the coolest motherfuckers I've ever met. You know, honestly, we met in Utah. What was that, 2022 or 23?
23, yeah.
23. And we were at the governor's office trying to raise money to get rid of create the management plan for the Wolves, right?
Right.
And to talk about the stronghold and all that stuff. Donnie Edwards was there. Don Pay introduced us.
Right.
And then we were taking a picture and it was all stuffy in there. And I grabbed you by the waist, like a prom picture.
That's right.
And it was like that. From then on, we just
get in here, baby.
Yeah,
Let's do
come
this.
on, get in here.
Let's not make it weird.
So I'd like to introduce John Wayne Walding. So John, you served 12 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You 7 of those years were Special Forces.
Correct.
So let's just talk about some of that stuff because you were a ton of accolades. You know, obviously you made the ultimate sacrifice, with a limb. You know, but I know you hearing your speech at that expo was one of the best speeches I've ever heard. Seriously, and I've heard a lot of people speak. I'm not like touting that I'm like an expert on public speaking or anything, but for me to like feel emotional on someone's speech and then like laugh and then want to cry and like it was like a movie, it was like this it was unbelievable. It was so good and it was like so genuine to me. So let's talk a little bit about your time. Like how did you let's talk about the beginning. Like you grew up in Texas, right?
Yeah, man, I always say that I'm 100% Texan, right? Because I'm half Mexican and my dad was a roughneck, right? So I oil and tacos. That's how I grew up, man. But I come from, I don't say I come from nothing, but I dang sure didn't come from a lot.
Right.
Whenever people always read my bio, I always say, hey, man, don't believe my bio because it's awesome. Right. You see the John Wayne born on the 4th of July, Green Beret, all this, Silver Star.
Wait, you were born on the 4th of July?
I was born on the 4th of July.
This guy is like unbelievable.
God's got a sense of humor, man, and it's so funny. Like I never will forget asking my dad, thinking I'm going to get this great story about why my dad named me John Wayne. I'm like, hey, Dad, why'd you name me that? He said, well, had a cool birthday, needed a cool name. I'm glad you thought about it, asshole. Right. I'm not stuck with it. And John Wayne did the movie, The Green Berets. Yeah. Right. And so me going through Green Beret school with that name, man, I've done a lot of push-ups for that guy.
Oh, I bet you caught so much shit.
Oh, so much, But as you can tell, I just got that, cocky attitude. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make you stronger just watching me do push-ups, But going back to don't believe my resume, right? Because what people don't know and what I don't put on there is that the first memory of my dad is me being in my grandmother's, Lincoln Town car, having to stop while 8 convicts walk in front of us in an orange jumpsuit chained to each other going to the courthouse. Well, one of those were my dad.
Really?
Right? So when the first memory of my dad was seeing him walk across the street from county lockup to the courthouse to get sentenced to jail.
Wow.
My mom.
For what?
Drugs.
Okay.
He was a hippie, man.
Yep.
Loved to party. I always say that my dad, he just was a great guy, just never grew up.
Yep.
And my mom, she was already in jail for the same thing. And again, first memory. So I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then I go from that memory to, living with my grandparents. And we moved to this redneck town in Groesbeck, Texas, man. And people I don't think they realize just like in small towns, there's not this aspirational, you can do anything you set your mind to. And it's like, you don't get up and go to fun, you get up and go to work.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a very practical mindset. And so for that kid to, seeing his dad do that to going to this, Groesbeck, Texas, where we got 3,500 people, but a $10 million football field, that's, we won state in 91, that's right. And that's where I grew up, man, hauling hay, hunting, hunting and fishing and outdoors, played football, baseball. I always tell a funny story about whenever I was in basic training and I kind of really had my first experience of being around people that's not from Texas. right? Because it's such a big state. You just don't leave Texas, right? Like, man, you're leaving the state. But I met a guy from New York, and I said, "Hey, what'd you do in high school? You play football?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, you played baseball?" I'm like, "No." Played basketball? He's like, "No." I'm like, "What'd you do?" Like, I didn't know you did not play sports.
Everybody plays sports.
It's just what you did, right? And so anyway, that's that's where I come from, man. And joined the Army and realized that I was pretty good at it. Again, I played football, loved it, but I never was the biggest, strongest, fastest, but you wasn't going to outwork me.
Right.
That's what got me on the team. And that works in the Army too, by the way. Right. And so I realized
works in life.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I've spent a couple years did the initial invasion of Iraq, realized, like people forget, like in 2001, when the towers fell, like America came together.
Oh yeah.
Like there was no,
absolutely.
I mean, it was incredible. And to, which by the way, I was in basic training when the towers fell.
Oh, really?
So imagine being that little kid, I say kid, I was, 19 years old. Right. And, it was basic training. We were hand-to-hand combat that day and whole place shut down. Drill sergeants came in like, "Man, we're going to war. We had a terrorist attack. We got to come in and do this," and pulling. I'm like, "Man, I thought it was a drill." Right. I thought they were trying to get our head right. Yep. And like at 2:00 in the morning, we're still pulling guard, and they got stuff on the TV of the towers actually burning. I'm like, man, they went through a lot of money trying to make this drill,
So because they mess with you in boot camp, right?
Yeah.
Like in basic training, you're getting messed with all the time.
Right.
They're trying to psychologically get you like in this, like make it feel real.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just this little redneck kid. I'm like, wow, man, this is real. Okay. And, but yeah, obviously it really happened. Here I am, a year later, 2 years actually going to combat. And when you go across that DMZ and you're invading that other country and I cannot, there's not a word to adequately describe just how vast the Department of Defense is and just how many vehicles that the military had, prepping up for, from Humvees to tankers to actual tanks. That's so much logistics that go in. I mean, it's incredible how many, vehicles and military people and support staff was in the initial invasion of Iraq.
Well, the amount of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The amount of money spent on equipment alone is just mind-boggling.
You just, again, there's not a word to articulate how big it is.
And when you're thinking about like what the enemy has,
nothing.
They have nothing. Like
nothing.
They got some AK-47s
and a Toyota Hilux.
Yeah, in like a Tacoma with a damn 50 cal in the back of it. Like that's really what you see. That's what, as a civilian, what I'm seeing on the news. That's what I'm seeing. It's like, oh, we got these dudes. Like our soldiers are outfitted with like the best of the best equipment, and then you have they're fighting these guys that have nothing, but they don't have anything. They don't care if they live or die.
Right.
And I think that's the kicker. Right.
Difference. Yeah.
They
don't value life. I think to your point that entire culture, not just the militants, but that entire culture doesn't value life like
no, they really don't. And you see it now. I mean, look at what's going on over there right now.
Yeah.
It's that same mentality of like, we don't really care if you don't believe what we believe. We don't care if you live or die. If you don't,
exactly.
I mean, look how they treat their women. Look how they treat, I think that I don't like to ever shit on anyone's religion or any of that. But I do believe that if your religion doesn't fit with our, like the way the rest of the world works, then, and it's, if you're doing that and it's not harming anybody, then whatever, like if you're Amish, right? That doesn't really fit with the rest of the world.
They've never blown up a plane.
But they're not blowing up people, and they're not, murdering kids and, cutting people's heads off and throwing them off buildings and stuff. They're not doing any of that. So if your religion just doesn't fit with the times, something's got to change. Right. I mean, your religion has to kind of change with the times, because go look at any, Catholicism and all that, look at all that, the way that's moved forward,
right.
It's all kind of moved forward with the times. It's like, hey, we're not really persecuting people for that anymore. It's you kind of have to come with the time. So what was the biggest shock when you got over there? Like when you first put boots on the ground, what was like oh shit. Like, cause I had that moment in the NFL where I was like, oh, I'm in the league now. Like, okay.
Yeah. The first thing for me was seeing a rocket go over my head. right? Like that's whenever you're like, okay, this is real. This is no longer training. That thing is about to go blow up. We're watching Basra get bombed, and when you see that's when okay, this is really happening. And then the unfortunate toils of war, right? You're rolling down the road, you see bodies dead, and you realize, okay, lives are being taken here, and that's when it really sinks in.
So when the bullets first start flying, right? You're in there with everybody you're with. Really, is like it's their first experience with this as well, right? Like all your whole platoon, right? It's a platoon, right?
Yeah.
I just don't want to, like, if I say something wrong, just tell me I'm wrong.
It's
like,
okay.
Because I only know what
I love it when civilians read military bios. They don't understand the acronyms and
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I know enough about it, but because the funny thing is I was actually, if it wasn't for football, Navy SEALs was like the next step.
You can't swim. Come on.
I'm a great swimmer. Are you? Abby, I could swim, can't I? I'm a great swimmer. Yeah. I'll swim. I sink straight to the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But so I've always been interested and always been kind of like obsessed. Like it's like I'm always, as a kid, I was obsessed with like military and watching. I always watched like old Vietnam War movies. Like I just thought that was like, this is what it's either prison, football, or the military.
Man, I'm right there with you.
So it's like those really, you talk about your childhood, and it was very similar for me. My mom was in and out of jail all the time. I didn't have a father, so I had to figure it out on my own. And
which, by the way, like people don't know how much science goes into selecting special operations soldiers, operators, right? And there is so much science that goes into choosing, that war fighter that can go through so much adversity and come out on top. And one of the big commonalities is that they've gone through things in their childhood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because they've been through adversity.
They've been punched in the mouth before.
Yep.
Figuratively, literally.
And they're not in prison. So
right.
So they got something that everybody else doesn't have.
Right.
And you can always tell when you meet somebody if they have that or not.
Right.
Especially, and then you can really tell when shit gets whenever like things get hairy, right?
Yeah.
When you're in a high stress situation, some guys, I'm sure that's what I was going to ask you. Is, did you see guys like all the training was out the window and they just kind of were like, fuck,
man, that's why
I can't believe I'm here.
That's why I went SF, man, is because I did the initial invasion of 03, in Afghanistan is in the conventional army. And that's what I saw. Right. Cause you go through basic and I'm one of those guys, I just jump all in and I'm all in and they say, hey, we're training to be warfighter. Okay. That's what I'm training to be, even though I was shooting missiles. Right. But I'm still going to be a soldier. And whenever I saw the first people that weren't those that are going to lean forward into the battle, I'm like, that's not who I want to deploy with. And I had the wherewithal to know that this wasn't going to be a one deployment, type war. We were going to be there for a while. And I said, okay, if I'm going to be deploying, I'm going to go with the best. And whenever I got back, that's whenever I went, to selection, which, that a lot of people don't know that you don't just raise your hand and say, hey, I want to go be a Green Beret. And
they got to tell you you're going to be.
That's right.
Hey, do you want to be?
You go to selection process, which is 25 days long. And if you're still standing at the end of those 25 days, they choose who gets to go to Green Beret school.
Yeah.
Right.
So what does that 25 days look like?
It's, man, it's the biggest mind fuck you'll ever go to. That's the only word I know to use because the whole time you never know how good you're doing. Like, it's not like the normal military movies where they're yelling, hey, maggot, get up the rope and yelling at you and doing this. Like, you never know how good you're doing the entire time. Like, think about, so there are about 400 guys that started my selection class, right? So 25 days, SEALs got hell week. We got hell month.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a competition, but.
No, I mean, hey, special forces guys, I always thought had it, it's a little harder.
No, it's I poke, but same but different, right? We got a whole different mindset, but yeah. So you go through those 25 days and you get trained, or you get looked at in so many different. From a mental perspective, we do cognitive tests, we do intellectual tests, we do personality tests. Well, like, people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's, sleep deprivation test, and then, oh yeah, by the way, we do physical tests, and the whole time you never know if you're doing good. You actually have to go take all the commands by this board that's out by the cadre hut. Like, so if you don't watch, and see them, hey, this is what the next task is, you get kicked out, right? Like, you just for not paying attention. and people are just constantly dwindling out. Here's another example. So you have a quad that you go into and you have a roster number. You're not called a name. You're not called, a rank. You're just, I was rostered 318, and they do an about face and then they start calling off numbers. And then you never see those people again.
Yep, they're gone.
Well, they called us to the formation again and they called off numbers. I was one of those numbers they called off. We were the ones that stayed.
Oh, wow.
Like, so the whole time, man, you just never know it. Like, and again,
so you didn't know what was going on with those guys.
Brother, no idea, man.
I was going to try to relate to that because we used to call it the Grim Reaper. So we, in the preseason in the NFL, you'll come in after a preseason game and do we'll be in like the weight room, and then Sky would come in there and just start picking people out and be like, hey, come with me. And they'd go, and then you'd never see them again.
Wow.
And it was like, then they just cut. These guys are all getting cut,
Yeah.
And it was just like the Grim Reapers here. Oh shit. You'd come in there and just pull guys out. So, but it's not they weren't getting selected. They were getting, getting the boot, but
right.
Obviously that's the competition side of it.
Like we don't even know what the competition is, man.
Right. You're just doing what you do.
Like again, read the board. It'll say ruck march, formation this time, be there. So you're there at formation, then they break you up into groups. And then guys reading a clipboard and like, candidate, you're to follow the cones and run along and designate a route till told to quit. Do you have any questions? No, go. You don't know if you're going 10 miles, 10 hours. Like you literally don't know. And one time we did it had to have been about a 4-hour ruck, 60, 70 pounds on your back. And immediately when he got back, they wrote on the board, PT formation go. So we had to change out of this into tennis shoes and we started running. And then, okay, candidate, you're running along a designated route to told to quit. We didn't know if we were going to run around the block or run another 10 hours, right? And there's it's out at Camp McCall, right? And you start to know.
Where's that at?
It's out in North Carolina by Fort Bragg.
What time of the year was it?
I did it in November because I never will forget. Only one time I ever thought about quitting, and it was day one. Monday Night Football was on. And we were getting rained on and we were doing an equipment shakeout. And I'm like, man, it's time if you're going to do it now, right now. If not, never, right? And I'm like, man, Monday Night Football's on, this. But yeah, it was in November. But yeah, we started running and there was like a Y, which you start to learn it out there. And we realized if you go right, that's going to be the short run. If you go left, it's going to be the long. Well, we went left and we started going. And then once we realized it's going to be a long run, like half the people quit. That was in my group.
Really?
Well, we just went down and we went crest over this hill and there was a 5-ton truck waiting to pick us up because they just wanted to see if we was going to keep going.
Wow.
And then they picked us up in the truck, brought us back. We only ran for about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. They just wanted to see who would quit.
Wanted to see who would quit.
They must know that like this breaks guys.
It does.
Right. It'll break them.
Yeah.
So that's just, that's really unbelievable.
Yeah. I could go on for an hour talking
15 minutes. Yeah. I bet the training side of it. So wait, you were in the Army for how long until you became I
was only in the Army for a couple of years. Like I said, I went in, did basic training, went straight to war. And then when I got back, I'm like, I need to be this guy.
Was it after your first deployment?
Mm-hmm.
You were like, I don't want to be out there with
I don't want to be these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because to your point, right? Because that's when you're going to lean, and kind of going back to, getting shot at in combat and conventional to the first time I got shot at, SF guys. I just saw a bunch of hard dudes just leaning forward and returning fire.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was
no hesitation.
No hesitation. Just going to work. Right. What's the battle plan? Let's make it happen. We got distance, how far is he? How many, what direction? All right, let's go to work.
Okay.
And that, to your point, right? When you get to the pros, right, it's totally different than it is at any other level when you're playing like that. That's when I realized I was in the pros.
Yeah. It was, it's funny because it's like when you're in there with like the second team guys, like the backups, it's never as tight and clean as you want it to be, right? The communication's not perfect. Everything's just a little off when you're used to being with the ones, when I say ones, I'm talking about the starters, like the starting core, the starting 11. And then whenever like a couple other pieces or a couple starters are out and they have like the backups in, it's never as clean.
Right.
Because it's just like, you build that, that trust in each other.
Right.
And like, Von Miller and I played next to each other for so long. We didn't have to speak.
Exactly.
It was like an eyed look. Like I just looked at him a certain way, and he's like, "I got it." You know,
We were the same way in the house, brother.
I'm sure it was the
Same way when you
exact
go
way.
in the house, you just look at each other, give a nod, and you just go to work.
Yep.
Because it's just that repetition. We do it
Mhm.
over and over and over. That's when people say, like, what makes special forces, special? I mean, for sure, the hardware matters, right? The guys that we get, they're top of their shape, all that hard stuff. At the end of the day, we get so much training over and over again by the best of the best where that's just going to be the outcome.
Yeah. Success is there's no other outcome.
Right.
Like you're going to be successful. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. So you joined the Green Beret as a Green Beret, right?
Right.
That's what you went into first.
Yeah, we're the U.S. Special Forces Green Beret. Like that's our official title.
Right. Yeah. And so what year was that?
That was 2005.
2005. All right. And then so let's fast forward to 2008.
Yeah.
To that's when you were wounded, right?
Yeah.
Were you ever wounded before that? Like, did you ever have like
no, man,
anything?
Yeah, I was lucky.
And so let's walk. That's what I want to talk about. Right
okay.
There, like for the next couple minutes here, let's hear that story.
Yeah.
From start to finish, because this is where you had me like locked in telling me the story. I was like a little kid sitting in front of the TV listening to the story.
Yeah.
So let's give the listeners like that story if you're okay with that.
No, absolutely. So, April 6, 2008 was a day that my special forces team, we were ODA 3336, right? And there was 12 of us on that team that we'd been there for the entire deployment together. Man, I don't even know how many missions we had been on during that time, because we had the first operational conduct of commandos of the U.S. That's their version of the special forces, right? Of the Afghani National Army. And so because we had that first conduct, we got a lot of missions and we just got a lot of work. And so to your point about just looking at your guy and we just knew what to do, we were pretty switched on. And that's why we went after the guy we did. His name was Haji Ghafoor. And he was the commander of the HIG. And
what's the HIG?
I can't pronounce it. The HIG. If you want to Google it and bring it up, you can. But it's basically Islamic radical extremists, right? Just like Al Qaeda, Taliban, Islamic, ISIS.
It's just
Muslim
another one, yeah.
All that stuff, right? It was the HIG, and what they did was go into the gems in gem mines, right? Like not like Gold's Gem, but stars,
I know what you
sapphires, and all that thing, the rubies. That was a big export in Afghanistan, and he would take over those gem mines and fund the HIG with it. So he was a tier 1, tier 0 type guy that, like a bin Laden type guy. Right. And so we've been trying to get him the entire deployment, and just for some reason, he just kept moving, but he was there this time. Right. And when we got there, he was 10,000 feet above sea levels, where his, I guess you can call it, the safe haven that he had. If you don't know where the Nuristan province is, it's, when Trump first took office, he dropped the Moab, the mother of all bombs.
Yeah.
He dropped it in the Nuristan province, right?
Okay.
So it's just a known, bed for bad guys. And because of that, there's no intel, right? Because you're 10,000 feet up. There's no really human intelligence that goes in and out of there that often, other than what we get from ISR footage up top, right? So we just knew that he was there, because of what we had saw. And now it's time to go. And when we go on to this mission, I always want people to realize that, like, you just never know, because you have real-time updates as you're going to the objective, right? And what it's like, when you get onto that helicopter and it's just chaotic, right? You got your headset on like we got right now, but in the head, you're listening to the ground force commander, which is your team leader, talking to the pilot that's talking to the JSOC commander, that's talking to the CG SOTF commander, like all this communication, and you're waiting for those 3 words that every cool guy wants to hear, right? Execute, execute, execute. And that's when the wheels lift off the ground of this helicopter. And that's the moment I always say we're living, right? And we kind of talked about it off the camera earlier about how that it's addicting, right? When those wheels lifted off the ground, like I didn't know if I was going to be alive when it landed.
Right.
right? Think about that moment. Like, think about how significant that is to where, you know, whenever you open your door, whenever you open it again, you don't know if you're going to be alive, man.
Yeah. You don't know if you're coming back.
Right. And that intimacy, right? That just being present at an extreme level, it's intoxicating, right? It's like when you're on that field, right? You're in that moment. It's intoxicating, man. You know, like as you're going through this air, you know, field and you're flying through this mountain range and you're hearing phase line alpha check, phase line Bravo check, right? Real time update. Hey, target's still there. Roger that. We're going to, you know, and you're just getting amped up as you see the moment about to happen, which you're standing up now and you're looking at the back of this helicopter about to run out of it and you're waiting for that green light to go. Well, that's what happens, right? You've run out the back, but we're not even on the ground yet, right? Think about how rocky and bouldering this valley was trying to come into this thing, this mission. Like we couldn't even land, right? So like Mike Tyson eloquently says, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face.
Yep.
That's what it was for us, man. We go to run out the back of this bird and we got to jump with 60 pounds of kit, you know, 10, 15 feet off the ground, right? That's taller than this ceiling right here. And what do you think's going to happen, right? We're going to get a sprained knee, twisted ankle or something. You're going to lose 20% of your element just because you jumped out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you know, we are the superheroes that we think we are, and no one got hurt, got our accountability. And that's when we started walking up when I say,
so wait, so you guys jumped 15 feet out of the helicopter onto those you're not landing on like some flat ground either, right?
Right. You're landing on boulders.
On rocks.
Yeah.
And nothing happened.
Nothing.
Like no twisted ankles. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's insane.
It's lucky is what it is.
That's right. What I'm saying. It's crazy that it's like, hey, sorry, we can't land. You got to jump.
It's like going to a game and then you got to jump from the first set of the bleachers onto the thing with everything on you. Like, okay, everybody good? All right, now you got to go to work. You know, so anyway, we go climbing this mountain and that's what you're doing. Like, I don't think people just truly recognize how hard war is.
Well, you're at 10,000 feet.
Right. First of all, you've been at 10,000 feet chasing an animal, right? Like you're sucking wind. Yeah, you're a barrel chested freedom fighter, but when you're in that thin air, man, science doesn't play, right? And biology matters, and you're just sucking that air. And oh, by the way, you're not just walking on on turf like you do on a football field. You're literally climbing a goat path that only a goat's supposed to go through. Now you got these, big old American, Green Berets trying to get through that goat path. And you're literally using your buddy's knee to climb up on the next terrace and try to get up to this, target building.
Yeah, you're climbing.
Yeah. You're literally climbing, man. And, it's so funny because it's not like the movies all the time, right? The movies make us be this just great, every foot placement you have is the best foot placement and it looks so awesome. Like you see on camera, man, you got guys falling down, right?
Oh yeah.
You got guys carrying a big saw gun, just sitting there bent over for 5 minutes. Say, oh, hold on guys. I got, so it's just so human part of the battle. But I was a SALT Team 1 leader, right? So it was my job along with Dave Sanders to be the first guys into this building or into this village to lock a building in. That way, no matter what, we can go into that building and have either a casualty collection point, or a C2 element, which is a command and control element, and that way, no matter what, we can come back to this house. And man, I was 40 yards from that first building again, climbing upward. And that's when we got opened up on with an avalanche of gunfire. And I say that not to sound cool, not to be dramatic, man. That's exactly what it was. And
just overwhelming
gunfire. And, to put it into perspective, right? Because that's what if you notice, like, that's what I like to do. I want you to know genuinely what it was like, not just, we got shot at a lot. Like within the first 10 minutes of this firefight, we already had our lead interpreter, CK, he got shot in the throat, died on impact. Right. So imagine what that's like, having to walk over his body as you're trying to go from one position to the next. Right. We have Dylan Bear, he got shot in the hip. Initial assessment on him was 20 minutes to live. So what does that do to your mindset? Right. All right. Well, we got CK, which now that he's dead, we can't talk to not only the bad guys, but the good guys and help them move in position to the next. So where our, capabilities on the battlefield are limited because we can't communicate with our host nation force. Now we got Dylan shot. He was a radio transmission operator. He was the RTO, right? So that's kind of an important thing to do, is communicate with higher up what's going on. Initial assessment on him's 20 minutes to live. So we knew that in 20 minutes, we're not going to get off the mountain. Right, we're not going to call in a medevac bird. The medevac bird's not going to get there. We're not going to get him on there in 20 minutes. So what's going to happen? Dylan's dead.
Yeah.
Right. And then Luis Morales gets shot not once, but twice in the leg. And I never will forget hearing over my headset, Luis saying, "John, come get me, brother." Right. Think about what that may not mean a lot to a civilian, but if you'd realize that, like, you don't say that over the internet or over the radio.
Oh, that's your brother.
Yeah. Like, you use proper radio etiquette. Bravo 1, this is Charlie 2, right? Charlie 3, this is Bravo 2. Like, you have a call sign that you use, and he's saying, "John, come get me, brother." And so again, what does that do to your mindset? So that's what I mean by an avalanche of gunfire. Like, within the first 10, 15 minutes, we were just getting hammered.
Yeah.
And casualty after casualty after casualty was happening. We're trying to fight uphill, against insurmountable odds, because we didn't know at the time that, we thought there was only going to be about 15 to 20 bad guys into this village. They're like, "Hey, we got that." Right. We got 12 to 15, SF guys with 60 commandos. We got some air coverage. We'll pick that fight, but we didn't realize it was, 3 to 4 times that.
So how many guys do you think were up there?
So obviously after the fact, they did a battle damage assessment, and they said between 200 to 250.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is way off.
Yeah. So it was a horse.
So whose intel were you going off?
Well, to my point, there wasn't any. Right.
Okay,
Right. You can't go in and out. So you don't have people to go in there and drive around and say, "Hey, what's going on?" It's just the ISR footage.
It's just the stuff from
the
above.
Surveillance from above. Right.
Oh, so they had a lot of people just probably underground. And
yeah. Well, again, in the mountains, it's, you've been in the mountains. It's
you
easy for an animal to hide in the mountains.
Easy to hide up there. Really easy to hide. A lot of crevasses and stuff to sneak into. And
right.
They probably got caves and stuff all over the place.
Right.
Because they've been at war for how long?
I mean, centuries.
Yeah, centuries of war. So it's like they have all this stuff, all these pathways. That somebody from the Vietnam War, a Viet Cong soldier, actually said that we've been fighting here for so long that it was easy when the Americans came, because they were just these big, bulky dudes. That were slow, couldn't get around the jungle fast, and we were just like in and out of these tunnels, no problem. So I'm sure it was like the same kind of style of fighting with these guys. So how did they know you were coming? They just Have you ever been in the mountains? Well, yeah.
Would you hear a helicopter coming in the mountains?
Absolutely.
You'd hear 6 helicopters.
You'd hear that some bitch coming from way out there.
Right. And make no mistake about it. We talk about how austere and rudimentary their warfighting, capabilities are. Make no mistake about it. There's 3 types of technology that I saw all over Afghanistan and Iraq. They may not have running water. They may not have sewage and a working commode, but they'll have an oil burning lamp, an AK-47, and a cell phone.
Yep.
Right. And so when they're on those mountain ridges,
they're calling each other.
Like, "Hey, we got Americans coming your way."
Yep. So they were ready.
They were ready to fight.
Oh man, you're walking into just like a hornet's nest.
Yes, and that's what it was that day. And so this was, within the 15 minutes, that's what happened. And then at that point, we came back down, because if you think about what it was like to, walk up these switchbacks, I'm sure you're familiar with, right? Well, they were getting shot below where I was, right? So I was the lead element up here closest to them, where they were shooting behind us back to the command and control element where they were. So I had to come back down from my position to initiate what I keep saying is Operation Human Shield, right? Because there's no cover, at all, little concealment that you could have on those goat paths. So I was bringing my element down, like we were just going to catch bullets. That way, the only medic that was on that entire mission, Ron, can come out there and actually, keep these guys alive. These guys being Dylan and being Luis, and that's what worked out great for 2 to 3 hours. We just from bombing as much as we can and eliminate targets as much as we can while they're working on them, and that's when I get shot.
So when you get back down to the
right.
building that you guys had secured when you first got there.
Right.
That's when you got, so was it just like a stray bullet? Like,
so, I talk about me. So I wasn't in a building. Like, we never even got to the building. We were just in this little nook crevice area.
Yeah.
Right. And, I was moving from one position to the next, trying to get a vantage point, to shoot a guy. And I fell forward with the most excruciating pain I ever felt in my life. And I fell forward. And then when I rolled over, obviously I was on my butt and I was looking at my leg, and it was just hanging at a 45-degree angle, only by an inch of flesh.
Oh,
right. So just think about that moment.
I can't even imagine what that. I know what it's like to like dislocate fingers or I dislocated my elbow real bad, right? Like, so it went all the way in, right? And I know what that looked like.
Yeah.
And that made me want to throw up. I can't imagine looking at my leg just where, at what part of your,
I mean, you can see here, right? So just at the bottom part of here was just hanging over.
so like
that.
right here at the top of the shin then.
Yeah.
Just hanging over.
Just,
and you're just over. Like, oh shit.
Oh shit.
So what did you do? And what did you get hit with?
So I don't know. The quick answer. The longer answer is I think what it was is it's either a high velocity sniper rifle or a stray bullet that was tumbling, a ricochet, right? Like an AK work, because obviously there was getting shot everywhere. And so whenever it hit, that bullet was just tumbling and it hit me like a grenade.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the two things that we were really thinking is what got me. But I do want to be very, because I always, to your point, right? You said one thing you loved about me is being real. I did what any human would do, man. I screamed, I cried, I got terrified, right? I screamed out to God, make it stop, right? Like I did what you would normally do when you have something of that severity happen to you, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do like the movies where I told my sergeant I didn't have time to bleed, right?
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
That's right. You know, sir, they got us surrounded. Well, good, we can fire in any direction, but yeah, I was terrified, man.
I'm sure.
But I didn't quit. Like that's the catalyst that I want everybody to know. Like it's all right to be terrified. It's all right to be, scared, to have this pain, uncertain, all that stuff, but just don't quit.
Right.
Right. Because I felt all those things, but then I realized you got to go back to work. Right. What's the next thing that you can do? I got to go to work and I just fell back on my training. Right. It's pretty easy to be a trauma doc, man. Air goes in and out, blood goes round and round.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep those two things happening, you could probably keep somebody alive until they get a doctor. Right. And so blood wasn't going round and round. Right. So I got my tourniquet on and, the term we use is ride high or die. Right. So from the point of injury, you want to get it as close up to a joint as possible so it didn't get knocked down. And I asked my buddy, Dave Sanders to come help me. I live with that creed that I'm dumb, but I know I'm dumb. So it almost makes me smart.
Yeah.
Right. I know I just got shot, freaking out. Probably want to make sure I got somebody double check me, make sure that I got this thing right. So I got Dave to come help me. And he did a great job with me. And it, the good thing about having an injury that was so severe is that I could see the blood just keep, pumping out. And the tighter that I tightened that tourniquet, it would just, pump out less and less. And then that's whenever I, found out, okay, I got the bleeding stopped. And that's when I can, continue to go back to work. Right. Unfortunately, every time that I would like move to get a vantage point, like my foot would catch on a rock and flop over and it would just like I just got shot all over.
Oh, again. I probably felt the same. The nerve endings are probably.
Yeah. It was, it was infuriating.
Oh.
Like it was a mixture of rage, pain, and yeah. And what the heck do I do?
It's making my stomach turn.
Oh yeah.
About what that probably felt.
It was just,
I can't even imagine the pain.
Yeah. Imagine, you say you dislocated your elbow. It's like, you put it back in, but it went out the other direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was funny because kept trying to put it in on the field. And I was like, get me off the field. I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't go back in because it was just like grinding on the bone, and it was, the nerves were just like, but you've seen what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
You said it's hanging on by just
an inch
tissue,
of flesh,
right?
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So how is it even, I'm surprised it didn't just like,
I literally on the objective thought about grabbing my knife and just cutting it off.
I was going to ask you if you thought about doing that.
Yeah.
Like, because it was like every time this thing moves, it hurts worse.
Right.
But in the back of your head, you were probably thinking we could probably save my leg.
Like what's the Ron Burgundy joke? Well, with my high income, advanced in modern science, there's no reason to think.
Right. You're probably thinking as long as I have the leg here,
yeah,
there's a chance it could be saved. Right?
So what I did was I grabbed my, my leg by the boot. And I folded it up into my crotch like that.
Oh my God.
And then I just held it between my thighs, like literally as I was fighting off the mountain.
That is
so
insane,
I kicked my own ass on the battlefield.
Or kicked yourself in the nuts at least.
Yeah, exactly. I'd always tell the joke, like whenever you probably heard me say it when I sit on stage, whenever I'm, speaking and telling the story, I always say I put my boot in my crotch. And so like the first national television interview, the guy's like, what'd you do? I'm like, well, I put my boot in my crotch. My wife was like, really, John, national TV? You said crotch. I'm like, well, I know what else is there. I can't say that shit. Right. Yeah. But
so you folded it. Did you like tie it down or anything? You just squeezed it?
Yeah,
and
you get a
held?
bootlace and just tie it to your thigh, right? And just held it from there.
Man. So wait, so how are you getting around?
Just scooting on my butt, man.
Just scooting around?
Yeah.
Well, because you're kind of trying to stay under cover anyways,
Right.
behind cover anyways. In military terms, there's cover and then there's concealment, right? So you're trying to stay covered because cover means
Cover
bullets
can
can't
stop
go through,
bullets,
right?
Yeah. Concealment, you can just hide.
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
But so how long did this go on?
This was halfway through the battle. So you got a 6.5 hour firefight. 3 hours into it, I lost my leg.
So for 3 hours, 3 more hours,
Right.
you're scooting around with your freaking leg tied to your thigh in between your legs.
Yeah.
Did that help with the pain at all? Did that help at all?
No, that was one of, again, I'm not trying to come here and try to tell you I'm this war hero, awesome guy. Like, it was the most debilitating pain. And I never will forget even thinking, hey, God, ain't I supposed to like go in shock at one point?
That's what I was going to say.
Like, I feel all of this and it's not fun.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think it was because of your training and everything and like just your mentality?
Maybe. Yeah. Cause I will say this, not to, pat myself on the back, but like I always did stay in the fight.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than try to get out of it, so I guess since I was always, my brain was working.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't have time for that.
Really to conceptualize, what to do.
So how did this come to, like, how did you get out of there?
Yeah.
Did you at any time during that, do you think, well, I'm probably going to die here? Like this is.
So yes, I did. Whenever first time it wasn't when I got shot when I thought I was going to die. It was when my team sergeant got shot. So imagine, this is probably, an hour after me getting shot, seeing my team sergeant, which, Scott was the guy that I knew was going to get us out of there. Right. He was the guy in charge that, been in the military for 16 years, was in the 82nd Airborne before he'd been to, Special Forces, been there. All the cool guys, school, killed more people in cancer. Like this guy, I would jokingly say like Chuck Norris wears Scott Ford underwear.
Yeah.
Right. Cause that's how awesome he was in my head. And I saw Scott get shot closer than what me and you are.
Really?
Right. So
he was right beside you.
He was right beside me, imagine, right in his breastplate, he dropped down to his knee. And that's when I realized, okay, we're probably going to die here.
And that killed him? That shot
killed him? No, it didn't. Unfortunately, he got, he's awesome. As I said, he was, got up, continued to fire, man.
Oh, after taking a bullet to the chest. Too.
Bullet to the chest.
Right in the sternum?
Right to the sternum, man. Yeah.
I bet that.
I got a video. I'll show it to you after this.
You got a video of what?
Of the damage. In some of the bombs that are being dropped, like some of the footage.
Oh, you got some of the some of the footage.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I got to see some of that.
Yeah. We'll
please let me see some of that. That'd be.
But
I just always always cool to be able to put some a visual to it. A real visual.
Right.
Because in my head, I know what I'm seeing right now and what I think is going on, and I just like you're probably like this guy's a badass. Like I bet him doing that probably made you think I'm gonna. Like I have to.
We
keep
got
going.
this, right? Yeah, we got this. Unfortunately, though, he got shot again within 5 minutes. So he got shot. He was left-handed. He's fired, and he got shot in the left shoulder. And I just saw his triceps fillet off the back of it. And that's when I realized, okay, this is getting real bad. And fortunately, though, the higher is up thought the same thing, and that's when they started dropping ordnance. When I say dropping ordnance, I mean, 250-pound bombs, 500-pound bomb, 1,000-pound, even 2,000-pound JDAMs were dropped on top of our head, right? There was over 70 danger close airstrikes on that mission.
70? So how close does it have to be for it to be danger close?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, right? It's different for every ordnance, right? But danger close for a 2,000-pound JDAM is over 1,000 meters, right? So that's more than 10 football fields stacked end to end. Or a major terrain feature, they were dropping them less than 100 yards on top of our head.
So a football field.
Right.
And they're just
2,000 pounds.
Because that's how close the enemy was, right?
Yeah.
They were right there.
It was, not just vertical, but it was linear, or linear was vertical, right? So whenever that bomb went off, it would just like the movie 300 where the arrows blacked out the sun.
Yeah. Like
it just got dark.
Yeah.
And like eerily quiet. Like that's one thing I remember distinct is just how quiet it got because there's so much chaos, from you got, rotaries calling in hellfires, you got fixed wing flying over, you got obviously, bullets. And then when that bomb dropped,
And you got fighter jets flying in there too, so that's loud as hell. If anybody that's ever been in the mountains and heard a jet flying there, it is. Deafening.
It's there.
Yeah, it's deafening. It's like even the wildlife are all like act weird whenever it happens. It's so loud. So they start dropping bombs,
and that's how we got off.
And that's how, and they were able to get. How did they get? But you couldn't. You had to jump out of the helicopter to get in there. So how did they get you back onto a chopper?
Yeah. So first we have to get off the mountain. Right, we're still on top of this dang mountain, and we got to get off of it. And every time they would drop an ordnance, we would just scoot and fall 10 to 15 feet off the backside, right? Because that switch backs that we were coming up, that was the easy way up.
So you just send it off the
right. So
if anybody that's hiked on a trail knows when it says, "Hey, stay on the trail,"
right?
You're just hooking it off that and sending it down there and landing on the next spot. And keep
trying to lower yourselves up as much as we can, falling and wash, rinse, and repeat. Right? They just would drop bomb, we'd go the next step, drop bomb, and do that. I got to tell the story because there's a part, we got these morphine injectors, right? To where, if you push it into your leg and it, brings a needle out and gives you morphine. And I never will forget thinking I could probably use that right now.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably like, because you didn't have anything.
You had nothing. Right. And so
you didn't have a freaking nothing. You had nothing, no type of pain relief.
Nothing, man.
Nothing.
And I never will forget, again, I'm done, but I know I'm done. So I asked my medic, I'm like, "Hey, Ron, what side down do you do this on?" And he's like, "Well, I'll do the purple side down." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I went just like that and went, and I hit hard to my thigh and the needle went into my thumb. And man, you want to talk about a mixture of just rage and pain. I threw the thing at Ron. I'm like, "You had one job, Ron, one job, and you messed it up, And as we're laughing right now, we're laughing on the mountain. The whole team was laughing because I'm cussing the medic.
Yeah, because you're cussing at it for sticking. You stuck yourself.
Told me the wrong way to do it, right? So I was like, "Yeah, one job." And since I'm on Ron, I'll finish it. I never will forget. It had to have been 20 minutes after that. It dawned on me. Nobody, the only one keeping me alive is me, right? And I'm not qualified for that, right? Because I did my tourniquet. Sure, it worked great, but Ron, medics never checked me and, anything like that. So I was like, "Hey, Ron, come check me out, man. ABCs, right? Of trauma med." And he was working on Dylan at the time, on his hip. I never will forget, his little peanut head looking over like this at me and give me a thumbs up saying, "You're good." I'm like,
"You're good.
This is not good, Ron.
This is not good. My leg is.
I know me good. This is not good." Over kicking my own ass and you're telling me I'm good, And again, we're just laughing because I'm like, "I'm going to beat you with my leg when I see you, Ron." But obviously he knew what he was talking about because if I could cuss him, I'm good enough to live. Right?
Exactly.
And like even whenever I finally got to him, I like started bleeding on him. I'm like, "There you go." And he's like, "Really, man? This was my good uniform." That just shows how the type of mentality we have. And
right.
Really, we loved each other, man.
Yeah.
And we didn't see always eye to eye together, but when the bullets start flying, we knew that we're going to fight to the death for each other. And so anyway, we get to the base of the mountain, and the first helicopter actually, when it comes in, we get drugged. And the best part of a landing zone that we could get was in the middle of the wadi. And to get to that wadi, we had to get drugged through this river, which have you been in, 10,000 feet at April 6th.
It's cold.
It's just cold, man. You just melted snow and ice, right? And so I was like, "Man, come on, baby Jesus, right? I survived a gunshot. Now I'm going to die of hypothermia."
Right. I bet because you probably got soaked.
Oh, man, I did. Yeah, I absolutely got soaked. But we're to the middle of this wadi where to your point of how do you get out of there? Well, we found some spot to where a helicopter can land. And just think about what it was like, at this time in my leg and seeing Scott in front of me bandaged up with his hand up like this, trying to catch the bottom of that helicopter as it's coming down, and it just flies away. Right. The footage I'll show you afterwards, you actually got the helicopter pilot saying, "I'm hit, I'm going south." Like he literally got shot. Like he got shot.
He got shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so imagine that, what it's like seeing that helicopter fly away.
The amount of times where you could, that in that whole thing, right? The amount of times just in this little conversation we've had where things could have just been like, "Oh, this is it."
Right.
Or you could have gave up.
Right.
I mean, how many times
I know
how many
what
times
it feels
you decided
like
to right. I mean,
think about that statement.
Yeah, it's
right.
insane.
And the gravity of what it really means, that I know what it feels like to die.
Yeah.
And it's not scary, by the way. But it actually felt good to make the pain go away. They're like, "Man, if you just relax, go to sleep, and it'll all go away." right? Like that was kind of in my head. We're like, man, if I just stop,
So you have to keep fighting it.
I keep fighting for the pain, right? Keep fighting for the hurt.
You want to feel the pain,
right?
Oh man, that's insane. It's insane to think about. It blows my mind. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was Bison. I got my Bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground beef, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com.
But yeah, the second helicopter finally came in. So I got drugged. So we were getting.
So how long? How long was it? Like right away or?
30 minutes.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, right?
And I'm sure in those circumstances probably feels even longer.
It's a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean it's just
30
forever.
Minutes in combat's a lifetime.
The roller coaster going on in your head probably.
Yeah. And in order for us to get picked up, right? So obviously he got shot, so that means there's a lot of gunfire that's happening at this landing zone. So when it flew away, we actually got drugged back through the river again to the base of the mountain, right? And this helicopter that came in, it wasn't even a medevac bird. It was called an ARF, an air reaction force, and it just had some Green Berets on it that it dropped down and they got off and threw us onto there. And in fact, when we lifted off, I was like, all right, cool, here we are. We're getting out of here. Within 5 minutes, I heard beep, 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 beep. We actually had to do a crash landing because the aircraft couldn't make it to the hospital because of all the damage.
All the damage from the gunfire.
That aircraft took getting us out.
So when you're like leaving, you just hear the bullets tinging off because it's just aluminum, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that just an aluminum?
I don't know what it's made out of. Some space metal, right?
Yeah, right. So you just hear it tinging off. Are the bullets coming through?
It's just the most chaotic thing on the planet.
And then they're like, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna crash land."
Yeah.
So what'd you think then? What were you like?
Well, all right, come on, baby Jesus, right? Gunshot, hypothermia, now helicopter crash.
Well, you could have. Here's the thing: it all started off. You could have like really fucked yourself up jumping out when you first got there. You could have really fucked yourself up,
right?
Jumping out, right? And then you made it through that. You made it through all this other shit that went on. Got, like you said, gunshot wound. Getting drugged through some fucking river twice.
Morphine in the finger.
Morphine to the thumb.
Yeah. Thumb felt great. Leg was a little shaky.
So you get on the chopper finally, and you're like this. You probably had a sense of relief, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm out of here.
Yeah, finally I'm out of here. So bam, how was it a rough landing or was it like a?
They did a good job. Like I don't remember how rough it was, but it definitely was a controlled crash. That
they had gotten you more morphine by the time you got on the chopper. So nothing.
No, again, that wasn't a medevac bird.
So you had nothing. So you're still in fucking misery. Just absolutely misery.
That's the one thing that I can say through that entire 6.5 hour firefight. For half of that, 4 hours, I was in the most excruciating pain of my life.
Do you think that maybe kept you alive?
Could have.
I'm just saying because I don't know. I'm not like suggesting it did. I'm just saying, do you think that was like, did it come to a point where you're like, hey, I could still feel it, so I know I'm alive,
Yeah.
Like if I could feel the pain, I've got to keep going.
Like I said, man, it's just the fight. I just kept fighting.
Because you say, so all right, so you crash land. This just fucking, I did not know this part that you fucking crashed on the way out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you told me.
And then a third helicopter had to come in.
So a third helicopter comes in.
We cross-loaded that one. Then we got out and then we went into the hospital.
How long of a helicopter ride was it?
About a 30-minute.
Okay.
Ride. Yeah.
And then what happens when you get to the hospital?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me about that because I want people to realize that war is a young man's game, right?
Yeah.
You can join the Army at 17 with parents' permission, go to a medic class school that's no longer than probably, 6 weeks, months at best, right? Be 18 years old in war, saving lives.
Right.
Right. So that's what I ran into. Like, I want you to know, like, whenever we got off that helicopter and we were getting on the stretchers, getting reeled into this thing, there's kids waiting there.
Yeah.
Right. And I never will forget this kid's eyes were just like golf balls because I'm looking like somebody from a Saw 5 movie.
Well, you got your fucking leg tied to your other leg.
Yeah. Keeping my ass again. Right. And he's just looking like this at it. Well, I stopped breathing. And I'm telling you, that's like the most terrifying.
Why did you stop breathing?
Honestly, I don't know. lungs collapse. I don't know if it's because of the elevation change, the morphine in my body. You just, sucks getting shot for that long. But think about how terrifying that is to be closer to me and you, right? Literally right here. I can't breathe, but I can't tell you that because you're right. Because when you can't breathe, you can't talk.
Yeah, you can't talk.
And you're just staring at my leg and I'm sitting here suffocating to death, right? And I grabbed the guy and I pulled him, as close as I could and did what I thought was the international I can't breathe, which was I just started pointing at my mouth. And then he was like, oh, okay, light bulb went off. Well, that's the good news. The bad news was the only way they knew to fix it was to give me not one, but 2 chest tubes. So that's how, like, when I got to the hospital, they didn't do anything to help my leg. They actually went and cut through my ribs. And I never will forget the first chest tube they gave me. Like, as soon as they went through me, like, and again, with no anesthesia. Right. So I'm awake and they're like, okay, check it out. Boom, knife through the rib. And I just threw the first guy over me. And the last thing that I remember was just a sea of guys coming to hold me down as they put that chest tube in me.
Oh, what did that feel like?
That was, how
excruciating.
Yeah, it tickled. Yeah. Compared to what that was.
Yeah. Like I just can't even, like, dude, that's why you're such a badass to me. Because you just are laying that you got your fucking leg in between was your leg still there?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So your leg's still there. Still hanging on by that little piece.
By the inch of flesh.
That's like your hope that
I had accountability, right? That's a big thing in the Army. I didn't lose my leg, man. I had it.
They lay you down and fucking, you're like suffocating.
Right.
And that's like, if anybody's ever like held their breath too long, knows how fucking terrifying that is.
Or got your wind knocked out of you.
Yeah, getting the wind knocked out of you is fucking the first time it happens, you're like, yep, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm going to die.
This is not going to, end well.
So is that what it felt like? Like the wind had been knocked out of you? Like you just can't catch it.
With no end in sight. It was the most terrifying thing.
I just keep thinking about it's your right leg. So your leg is up here and you're fucking tight. I mean, that thing was probably so tight.
Yeah.
Around your.
No, actually, I mainly held it more than any, like, I didn't have like a strap or anything to really.
Oh, so you were holding it.
Yeah. I was carried my leg down the mountain.
Oh my God. And then they have to stick a knife in your fucking ribs.
Yeah.
And stick it and hold you down and stick a fucking tube in there.
Right. So
did you get relief on that one?
I did. Well, again, I passed out. Right. So that was the last thing I remember is when they were inserting the tube.
The pain from that was just.
Man, it was everything.
I bet that's when your body finally was like, yeah. And knocked you out. So what's the first thing you remember waking up from? Like how long were you out? How many surgeries did you have to go through before you actually woke up and were like,
honestly, I don't know how many surgeries it was. Before we go there, I do, because as Green Berets, our motto is the quiet professional.
Yeah.
Right. Our saying is, shut your mouth, don't be a SEAL, right? Like let your job be the voice of who you are, right? And you said I'm a badass. I appreciate that, man. I'm not a badass. Who's a badass is Ron Schurer, the medic that got the Medal of Honor, that kept all 4 of us alive during all that. Like, he's a badass. It's Matt Williams that crawled the mountain to help us, through all that fire to help us. Like, he's a badass. Dave Sanders that put my tourniquet on. He's the badass. Like, all of these guys around me that helped me, stay alive that day. Like, that's the men that, there's just not words to adequately describe, the awesome that they are. Right. And so I put in, here are the accolades. And that's my point of saying this, right? Is that we don't like to talk about the accolades, but I think it's a good thing that needs to be said. That day, 15 Americans went up at Green Berets, right? We went up against 250 Taliban or HIG fighters. And after 6.5 hours, there were 70 danger close air strikes. 10 Silver Stars were awarded, which Silver Star is the 3rd highest award for valor. 2 of those Silver Stars were upgraded to the Medals of Honor, which made us one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated Special Forces team in history. There were 8 Purple Hearts, right? So think about that day. 8 out of 10 of you that's on that mountain was getting shot that day.
Yeah.
Right. And, but no Americans killed.
That's what blows my mind, is that nobody.
Think about that.
The chances of that happening, I mean, if you were to tell somebody, hey, we're going to send these 10 guys in there against 250 people and none of them are going to die.
Yeah.
8 of them are going to get shot though. How many, were you the only one to lose a limb?
Luis lost a limb a year year after that, he tried some limb salvage. It was crazy because he got shot twice and his leg was in better shape than mine was, but in long story short, he ended up cutting his off, and he's freaking awesome doing triathlons and everything.
Yeah.
And
So he's fine.
yeah, he's just a
So what do you do? So you got to think. I think about it this way. All of that shit goes down and nobody fucking dies.
Yeah.
What's your thought process afterwards, after you wake up, right? Are
Yeah,
you
I'm
thinking
glad you
about,
asked
are
me
you,
about
is
that.
your first thought is everyone alive?
right.
Is that like your first thought?
thing that actually the first thing I thought of is my leg's still there.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure.
Right. So imagine what it's like. As soon as your eyes pop open, you're looking at ceiling tiles in a hospital, and you're in a hospital because you know exactly what it feels like the bed is. You knew what happened before. You knew, what the smells are like. You know what that linen is like that's been sanitized all the time, right? But you also knew what had happened when you passed out. And I can feel my leg. Even right now, I can, I have that phantom, sensation where I feel my toes and everything. And so I'm sitting there, or I'm laying there looking up and terrified to look down, right? Because I can feel everything. I knew what had happened. I knew what had been there. But I also knew the next time I look down, it's going to be one of the most profound moments of my life, right? Am I going to have one leg or two? Derek, I was terrified, man. I didn't want to know that answer. And when I looked down, I just saw one foot sticking upright. And that's when I realized the inevitability of the word can't.
Yeah.
Right. I can't walk. Right. All these motivational speakers, people say I don't motivate. I just give people real talk. And if that pumps you up, right on. But, this whole thing, there's nothing you can't do. No, I can't. Not without the aid of a prosthetic device, man.
Right.
Right. And that inevitability was one of the hardest things mentally that, because that's the hardest thing that I got to overcome. That all these guys have to overcome.
The inevitability of not that you can't do something.
Right. Because to your point, my statement earlier about you're not going to outwork me, right? Like that was my superpower, man. Right. I'm not the biggest, fastest, strongest, smartest guy, but I knew no matter what in life, I'm just going to never quit. And that's going to get me to be a Green Beret. That's going to get me to do everything that I've done. Right. And now I know no matter how much I try, I'm never going to be able to walk again, not without the aid of a prosthetic.
Not without help. Right.
And man, I cried.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right. I mean, I bawled in the hospital bed, and I never will forget the nurse coming and, and trying to, comfort me and realizing not only that, man, what am I going to do for a job? Man, I got a wife and kids and you don't become a Green Beret because you like it, man. You do it because you love it.
Right.
Right.
So you're
same
thinking,
thing. You don't become a pro
love
because you like doing it. You became a pro because you loved it. And you're going to do everything in your ability to be on that field come Sunday.
Yep.
Right. Now I'm not on that field, man. Now I know there's nothing that I can do to put me on that field.
But you got back, right?
I did.
You got back.
I did, yeah.
Because you're the first to ever do it, right?
I was the first amputee to ever graduate Green Beret Sniper School, right? Special Operations Target Addition Corps.
How long, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about the hospital and what that was like, because I know that sucks, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to minimize that, but I just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
How long until you decided I'm going to go and I'm going to join sniper school?
Well, immediately.
So that was like an
right. Again, there's a lot of arrogance, right? There's some self evaluation that I have with the years that I've been, since my injury. But to your question about what was it like when you first woke up, and I realized that I'm getting back. Like this ain't going to win.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to beat me. I'm not going to get let anything come between me and getting back on a team. I'm going to get back on that team. And that's when I didn't let anything stop me. And within a year, I ran the Army 10 miler, right? Within a year, even before then, I did the Boston Marathon on a hand crank and got 4th place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like happy, sad, right? I was like pissed off, but also happy. I was pissed off that I should have trained. I'd have got gold.
Right.
Right. And I was like, damn, I didn't know I was this good at it. Right.
Yeah.
And did, so I did 4th place at Boston, went and did New York Marathon on a hand crank, I think I got 6th on there. Ran there. I just kept going, man, and just kept pushing. And after so many months, I went to the sniper detachment with my former team sergeant, and which is sniper school, and in order to be like a full-time instructor, you had to go through the actual sniper course. And, put some waivers in. They said, hey man, if you think you got what it takes, we'll put you through it. And they didn't pull any punches. I did every single thing they did. I mean, it's a 8-week course, a whole 2 months of 2-a-days, just getting your, head kicked in again. And I graduated and just like everybody else did. And it was one of the most,
I bet that felt,
man, it was bad to the bone.
That probably was like, that's when you probably felt like kind of a badass, huh?
That's whenever I felt like God is good.
Yeah.
Right.
That's typical of you to say it like that, because that makes you, dude, the shit that your ability to say, fuck you, I'm going to do this is incredible to me. Like all of the odds are stacked against you. That, and I think that's why like marathon running is so like, you just dominate that.
Right.
Because it's that mentality of, I'm not going to like let you win. I'm not going to let that little voice in my head win.
You know why I ran a marathon? I told myself I couldn't.
Yeah.
And immediately when I felt that, to your point, because I never will forget being at Walter Reed and I was seeing a guy running and they had, I think there was the Marine Corps Marathon was around whenever I was there. And I heard, there were people getting ready to run the marathon. I'm like, man, there's no way I can do that. I'm like, no, fuck that. Guess what? I'm going to run a marathon one day. And I went from a guy that couldn't take a step to taking that step to taking 5 to taking 35, right? To getting a running leg.
What's the furthest you've run now? Like straight through?
The first distance I ran, I think, was about a 20 miler, or I'm sorry, a 30 miler.
30 mile. I mean, dude, honestly, like I can tell you right now, with 2 healthy legs and 2 pretty much new hips,
you can do it.
I can't go out there right now and run 30 miles.
You could.
I could walk 30 miles.
No, you could do it,
but I can't.
You wouldn't feel good the next day.
I'd feel miserable.
That's what I tell everybody about.
It's the next
you could
day.
run one. Your mind will take you there. You just feel like crap the next day.
It's the next day. Like I just really don't. I hate running distance.
Yeah.
My wife will tell you this because she loves to do it.
Yeah.
So when she's like, come on, let's go on a run. I'm like, I'm built for speed and power, man. Yeah. Like I'm not built for damn running long
4
distance.
seconds at a time.
Exactly. 4 to 6 second play as hard as I can go. And then I get 25 seconds of rest. All right. Then I could do it again, and that's how I trained. But now that I'm doing all this backcountry hunting, I am doing more like longer rucks and stuff.
Right.
And that's the one thing I noticed, man, when you pack a bunch of weight around, like it fucking tears you.
I love the grind,
man.
Right?
It makes you sore as hell the next day.
I love the grind. I'm telling you, I get off on things like that. Like it's the grind where it just doesn't quit. Just don't quit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's an endorphin rush too.
It is,
you get those endorphins. Every time you don't quit
on your back.
Every time you don't quit, you feel like this fucking, sense of accomplishment every time.
Right. That's what I teach my kids, man. I was like, look, I don't care for you to have a Harvard PhD. I don't care to say that you cured cancer. I cared that you saw something, knew it was hard, it went punched it in the mouth.
Did it anyway.
That's what I want you to be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's, there's too many kids that aren't taught that.
Right.
So let's talk about, so how long were you, how many more years? So that was year 7, right? 7 years you spent in the Green Berets. How many of those years were spent being a sniper?
I believe the last 2 years.
Just the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to retire?
There's a lot of things that culminated that decision, because it's a hard decision.
Oh yeah.
That was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. John Wayne, born on the 4th of July, Green Beret from Groesbeck, Texas. Like if God ever put it in black and white, what to do, like he did it for me, man. And I was all in.
Identity.
It's right. That's me. And I never will forget, what, probably the hardest thing that I ever did in the Army was bury my buddies. Mm-hmm. Right. I always tell everybody that the military, they taught me how to deal death, but not how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Think about that, where I could come into the room with surgical precision, look in the whites and eye, and pull the trigger.
Right.
Right. And be okay with it, because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. I couldn't get that call that Aaron Bellagio's dead. Right. That Ryan Savard's dead. That Willie Lubber's dead. That Dave Banner's dead. That Dave Hurt's dead. That Chris Kyle's dead. Like I could just keep going on and on and on of guys that I know. Ben Bittner's dead. Right. And there's so many more. And I didn't know how to deal with it, man. And at that point, I realized that, if I'm not going to be going down range, because after sniper school, that's when I realized, you know what? It's very vain of me to want to be back on a team deploying to Afghanistan, because it's what's best for me, not what's best for the team.
Right.
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 And that was a come to Jesus, like a little humble pie, tough conversation to have. Right. Because I wanted to get back to show that I could do it, that I could add value, that I could do all these things. There's a lot of eyes in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about how, I realized going through sniper school, because again, they pulled no punches, but I realized that no matter how good I am with one leg, a Green Beret with two is going to be better.
Right.
Right. Because heaven forbid this thing breaks and you got to pull me off that X and you get shot because you had to do that. Right. Like I couldn't.
You couldn't live with that. Yeah.
I couldn't. And so knowing that's why I wanted to, to.
You don't want to be a liability.
Didn't want to be a liability, man. You know that. Never. Right. And so since I was going to, be in an advisory role or instructor role, whenever I buried my buddy, I was like, man, I can't do this anymore.
Just had enough of
I
it.
didn't say that. I said, what else is out there? Right. Is there another way to serve?
Right.
Rather than just being hard in without making an educated decision. And then I went and asked the good thing about special operations, man, they take care of you. Right. And I asked the Care Coalition, I was like, hey man, what do y'all got on the flip side? I'm not saying I want to get out.
Just want to explore my options.
If I did, right, what would that look like? Man, when they brought me all this stuff, and I was like, I just felt God putting me in that direction. I said, all right, let's go do that.
And that's a perfect segue for what I want to talk about next, because you are doing a bunch of cool shit now. So let's talk about, so you have your logistics company, right? Which is, let's talk about it. Go ahead and I'll let you do it. You know it better than I do. I'll let you tell it.
Well, the way I even got there, right, is I owned a company called Five Toes Custom, which was a firearms company, right? I always live with purpose, right? And I wanted to be a place where veterans can come by building handcrafted firearms. And David Faherty, I don't know if you follow golfing, but David is a very good friend of mine. And we were shooting one day. He's like, oh, Johnny, you should build guns for a living. And I was like, all right, why don't I? And he's like, and he partnered with me. He's like, I'll tell you what, Johnny, I'll buy the parts. If you build a gun and sell it, right on. If you don't sell it, we'll just have a badass arsenal.
Yeah.
So I started the company. We built it unsolicited. Somebody offered to buy it from me. And the same week when I sold my company, I call it a God thing. Because when I say I sold it, it's not like I sold Amazon.
Right.
Right. And I bought an island to figure out what I had to do. Right. I had about 3 months to find my next job. And my business partner now got in touch with me and he said, hey man, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. You hiring? And he's like, no. I said, well, he came by, he said, come by my office. So I went and saw him. And for an hour, 2 hours, he mentored me, man, in a way that I never thought somebody would. He's like, hey, what's your purpose? What do you want to do? And I said, man, I just want to hire vets. Right. I know firsthand what it's like to have my back on the battlefield and wake up in that hospital bed and have a great American give me that hand up, not hand out, but a hand up. And I want to forever give that back. And he said, well, are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? I'm like, hey, Ken, I've been shot at. Yeah, I'll get out of there. And he said, well, why don't, he had a logistics company. He said, why don't we partner together and start Gallantry Global Logistics? When I received the Silver Star, on the back of it, it said for gallantry in action.
Oh,
so that's where I got the name Gallantry Global, right? We want to be a place for veterans to come and hire guys. And the guy that owns the Houston Astros, his name's Jim Crane. He owns Crane Logistics, right? The redneck math. I said, okay, well, what if I build a logistics company that's nothing but a bunch of vets? Imagine what the significance of what we can do to the veteran community.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I just want to be the Black Rifle Coffee of freight, man. A bunch of red, red loving, just American flag waving, freedom loving guys that's there to do in a logistics space.
And how long have you been doing the logistics?
We've been doing it for about 5 years, man. We did the best we've ever done this year. Every month.
Good for you.
We're doing better and better, man. We're looking to hire right now. So if you know a guy or a gal, send them our way,
It's funny because we actually have a close friend that she runs a school for these drivers in Vegas. Right. So she has a school. So if you have any vets that want to get into it, we have a school for them to go to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They have government scholarships and everything.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time.
So seriously, we'll get it. We'll exchange those contacts because she's awesome. Yeah. She's awesome. She crushes it. So that's in Vegas. And, there's a lot of vets in Vegas. So that would be a good starting point, to get involved there.
Yeah. Man, that's what, as people, I never thought I'd say Green Beret turned logistician, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many things that logistics touches, like everything.
Oh, it's huge. It's right. It is. That's how everything's being shipped now, right? Because everything's being bought online and everything's. Absolutely. So the shipping game is huge, right? So every company has an online base.
Yeah.
So they need to move that.
And we can still contribute to the fight, right? Because you got defense companies. We're doing drones for defense companies. We're doing all kinds. So it's awesome for me to be in these boardrooms with these multi-billion-dollar companies that are, helping the war out, I can be in there and say, oh yeah, that vehicle right there that you make that I want to help get over there. I've been in that for about 35 hours straight coming across the border.
Yeah.
Right. Or, hey, this, munition right there. I've literally shot that before.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just, and obviously with the other vets that we bring to the table, it's just, it's a natural fit.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. All right. So now, we could talk about that, your logistics company because I think that's just
it's
so
awesome.
And that would be Live to Give, right?
So yeah, Live to Give, that is a for-profit company. We sell bottled water. It's like Smart Water, but Freedom Water. Like every bottle you buy, we give half back to veterans and first responders.
Okay.
Right?
That's just a water company.
Yeah. It's a water company that we did some coffee as well, but really we're in 243 HEBs in Texas and every bottle you buy, we're giving half back and to the transition part, the Live to Give Foundation, we support the Best Defense Foundation, Donnie Edwards thing with their Stronghold program. That's who we partner with for that transition.
Who supplies your guys' coffee?
We do.
You guys make it?
We have
Are you guys brewing it and everything and roasting it and all that stuff? Okay, cool. Because I have Juniper Mountain.
I
was going to say, we'll sell you guys some coffee.
I know
some coffee.
We'll talk.
It's all American made. Everything's based in America. It's like a very American company. So just the beans come from out of the country.
Right.
You can't really get good beans. You can't grow good beans here. The Peru and stuff like that. That's where you get them from.
Right.
So you're doing that, and then you're also doing the Boots campaign.
Yeah, I help support with the boot campaign. They do great things. Look, we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and I want to punch that in the face, right? And that's what the boot campaign does great. And what I love about them is it's not that they just go after, mental health. They take a veteran and they help them holistically, right? Because there's so much that is to the left and right of mental health.
Yeah.
That is a contributing factor, right? And to put it in perspective, they'll send guys to the Cooper Clinic in Dallas that for one day you'll get about 6 months worth of appointments, literally MRIs, CAT scans, intricate, draw blood, do all the intricate system. What are your volume levels and everything? And at the end of that day,
your testosterone levels,
everything, vitamin, whatever this is, and
vitamin D.
And like put it this way, like the type of people are there, or like Roger Staubach was in the building the day that I did it.
Oh, really?
Right. So that's the caliber of people that are coming to this clinic that the boot campaign takes veterans to and gives them this holistic.
They're getting
approach, the best of the best,
very
right?
best.
And so it's that obviously everything else that comes on with that,
which they should. I think we should treat our warriors better. Throughout history, warriors have always been treated great,
right?
In their society. So that's why it makes me so sad to see guys struggling with their transition out of it, because it shouldn't be like that. They should be. You're doing a great job, but our government and themselves should be pumping more money into that,
right?
Instead of sending it.
Well,
to
our
countries.
government should be partnering with these companies.
Exactly. Well,
right?
Yeah, you should have a government contract,
right?
So hey, we're gonna.
VA's got a lot of money, and the VA's not doing the best thing, but these people are.
Yeah.
And there should be a mechanism that allows that funding to go from the VA to these people. Because imagine what the boot campaign could do. I mean, it's just like, in the NFL, right? You've got, how many NFL players are there? Not a lot.
Right.
Right. So,
54-man roster.
54-man roster. And you do great things with those 54 people, right? The VA's got 54,000.
Right.
Right. They're just never going to have the impact like with.
Yeah. My mother-in-law was a nurse practitioner at the VA up in Cheyenne, right? Cheyenne?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like Laramie, Cheyenne. In Cheyenne for 50 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just throwing out numbers because I know it's more than 25.
Way back in the 1900s.
Yeah. Back in don't let her hear that because she'll be pissed. Yeah. And my mother-in-law is not one you want to mess with. She does not play. But she always tells me, I have a brother-in-law that's a chief in the Navy as well.
Okay.
And I remember he had his knee was messed up and they were giving him x-rays. And I'm like, why the fuck are they wasting time with an x-ray?
Right.
I was like, they know you need an MRI. Yeah. You don't have a broken bone. Like it's in your knee. It's right here. It's like, oh, there's nothing that could be broken right there. That's all ligaments and cartilage.
Right.
So it's got to be an MRI.
That's protocol.
But you got to go through the protocol, and it took like they could speed that up so much faster. So you guys are doing shit.
So
like
that's
that,
what
right?
boot camp
Getting guys
does,
taken care of.
Speeds it up
Because guys are banged up, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same in the league. Guys are fucking beat up.
Well, mentally, and again, like I said, my leg, this thing's easy. Like, it sucks being one-legged, right? But figure it out, right? I'll just get my leg and I'll just do, I won't skip leg day. Make sure it's strong, right? It's the mental is the hardest thing for guys to overcome, right? And that's where people need, to realize like that's where the help needs to go for them is to understand not only from a culture perspective, right? That first and foremost, it's okay to say I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Like whenever I speak, I talk about vulnerability being the most courageous thing that I've ever learned.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The most manliest thing that I've ever done is look my brothers in the eye and say, man, I'm not good.
Mm-hmm.
I need your help.
Yep.
Right. And because that's what that culture we need to bring into these guys and say, it's okay to say I'm not good. And oh, by the way, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right. Because these lions that the military breeds, they let them out of the cage, man. And now they come back to America and they're supposed to put this lion back in a cage. Right. What does a lion do that's caged up? Right. It just goes down. Right. And you got to learn that it's okay to have that lion there, but you're also going to be something else now. And it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay. I can relate to that so much, coming from out of the NFL. It's just like when I talk about every day is just like violence,
right?
Being violent all the time. And It's like the more violent, the better you're doing. It's like the more violent and under control I am, the better and more praise I get and the money value I get and the more value I have. And I bring, my value is based on how much violence I can create, and when I'm saying like controlled violence on a football field, right? So the more damage I can cause and the more chaos I can create. And then you come into normal society. So when I came out of the league, I was like, what can I do now? Right?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food grade ingredients for industry classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something, American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer, Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion, Brian Blaney, rising country star, Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. So that's where I would like to segue into the stronghold, because there's a lot of heavyweights behind that. You know what I mean? A lot of people. I know Brett Favre is tied in with that, and Bo Jackson, and I'm talking about athletes. Bo's. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about Bo. And you want to talk about the greatest athlete of all time is Bo Jackson. Like
ever.
You have to talk about pure athlete. It's Bo Jackson,
right?
So, there's no better,
right?
And so to me, like for him to be involved with it, it's
and for his humility, by the way,
right?
Like I never will forget, because I met Bo Jackson at a speaking gig in Utah, and like the guy that put that together, he's like, "Hey, John Wayne, out of all the people, Bo asked for 2 numbers, and yours is one of them." I was like, "Wow, would I owe him money? Like, would I owe him something?" and he was going on a hunt. He was going to Arctic Red, and he wanted me to give him some, teaching on some teaching. He wanted some lessons on long range marksmanship, and so he called me up and he said, "Hey, can you teach me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have a mile-long range outside of Dallas. Come down here while teaching." He flew in. I picked him up in my car, like he didn't have a car service or whatever. Went down there, and he's just, just a humble guy. And but yeah, what we do at the Stronghold program, what I love about it is like you and I have so many similarities, that we have not only what it took to get to where we were, but what happened afterwards, right? And so what they do, what the Best Defense Foundation, Donnie has done great, obviously with his connection to NFL, is He likes to mix NFL.
We're talking about Donnie Edwards,
right? Donnie
who
Edwards.
is an absolute 14-year NFL vet, legend,
right?
Kansas City Chiefs,
just great American.
Yeah,
absolute great American. You know, and so he likes to mix NFL players with special operators, right? And we get them up at 10,000. We always say healing happens at 10,000 feet, right? And we get them together for the whole
fatigue makes cowards of us all, right?
And bonds you too.
Yep.
You know, those that suck together bond together.
Yep.
Man. That's a fact, Jack. But gets us together. But it also gets us together with you know, pillars of the community of all types of help, whether it's mental health, whether it's, you know, what type of programs and services are out there. What do you need from a professional? You know, we've got business leaders that come in, and for the whole week, people just kind of come in and give little workshops that say, hey, look, you know, where's your head at? Let's do this. One guy, an Indrakan guy, came in, and like before they all got there, they did blood work, and he helped them out there. And so the whole week's out there is just really focused on the NFL guys and us getting together and saying, hey man, here's where we were. Now what are we going to do to make life great?
You find a lot of peace in that camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know, because I think a lot of guys
and hope.
Everybody that I've ever taught, all the old guys, when I was playing still and I was young, you know, the older guys come in and talk to you and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, like it's just part of being young and dumb. You're just like, whatever. I fucking, I'm never going to stop. I could play forever, you know? And they're like, hey, one day you're not going to be able to play.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the one thing you're going to miss the most is your brothers. Right. You're going to miss the locker room and you're going to miss like the times. You're not going to miss the football side of it. You're going to miss that a little bit, but you're just going to be the times with your brothers, like on the bus or on the plane.
Absolutely.
All those times that you get in the locker room after practice and fucking around and joking on each other. Right. And that's what you're going to miss the most. And that's what I love most about hunting is because I can get that still, right? You get into a hunting camp and everybody's miserable because we hiked all day and nobody saw shit. And it's like, you know, we could sit around
rain
and like
half the day.
It's like that 30-minute period of like taking your boots off and like, you know, just before, cause you're going to pass out and wake up and go do it again in the morning. So it's like that little 30 minutes of us just giving each other shit.
Right.
Or like first thing in the morning, having your coffee and making fun of the guy because he's taking too long to poop in the woods. And like, it's just, you know, that stuff is so fun to me and so good for my mental health that, you know, I love to do it with vets because I could see the transition.
Well, first of all, we don't whine.
Exactly.
Right. There's no complaining. Worse than being on a hunt with a civilian that's just whining because it's cold. And like,
whining because it's
not
cold.
Know what
do we have to go up there? Do we really have to go up there?
Oh yeah. I've got zero sympathy.
Yeah. And because the other thing is most civilians haven't been through any kind of real adversity. Right.
Yeah.
And these hunts are not cheap either. Right. So they're probably people that maybe come from money.
Right.
Or have life a little bit easier than everybody else. And they get out on these hunts because they want to be cool. And then they realize how much work it actually is. And then it's like a punch in the mouth to them and they fucking quit.
Well, and I've learned that the most growth happens through pain.
Yeah.
Right. That you always grow through struggle. Right. In that God taking this leg from me. Right. Because I didn't give it to him.
Right. You tried to keep it.
I tried it. Tied it to me and everything. It's mine, baby. You know, it's like a baby's diaper, right? When this is warm and it's mine, you know. But you know, I've learned through this struggle of being an amputee that God's made me better for it.
Yeah.
Right. I have a greater sense of gratitude. Like, brother, there's no gratitude like waking up every day being grateful to be alive.
Right.
Like it is when you know what it feels like to die.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny you say it. My wife, everybody has talked to me, people close to me have always preached like gratitude to me.
Right.
Because I always had a chip on my shoulder and I felt like gratitude and complacency was kind of like I put that in the same like grouping. Right. I was like, I got to just be fucking mad and miserable. And that's how I get through this. Right. And realizing like that once I got married, took a couple years after that of coaching. I have a great coach, obviously. But she was like, look, you just find something to be grateful for. Like you should be happy. Like, look at what you've done. But I just always found a way to be negative about it. Because I thrived in that negativity. And once I started dealing with anxiety more and like I didn't have the outlet, I realized that gratitude and anxiety and depression all come from the same spot of your brain. Mm-hmm. So if you can flip that, I'll just wake up in the morning and do 3 simple things that I'm grateful for. Right. Grateful for a warm bed, right? I'm grateful that my wife fucked me last night. I'm grateful that my kids are healthy. I'm grateful that I have warm food, like hot coffee, like just simple things that most people don't think about.
Yeah.
Switches that. And I notice it when I don't do it. I notice how my whole day is different, that I'm like constantly fighting that little, that inner, I call it the inner bitch that's in there, like, whining, being a little whiner and feeling sorry for yourself. And most people don't realize that, right? That how, like when you say gratitude, I always I know I sound like the guys that were telling me to be grateful and find something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
But you're so right on the gratitude side. And and you have it every time I speak to you, whether it's through text message or on the phone, you're always showing gratitude. You're always like, I'm like, hey, how you doing? You always have a joke to, it's always something funny to say.
I will forever.
This guy is fucking awesome.
I will forever be the light that shines in the darkness.
Right.
Like, I'm not a victim. I'm a victor.
Right.
Right. I don't have that victim mentality like, oh, I got shot. Now everybody owes me anything, or the
which
Army
is rare.
did this to me. Right. But it's one of those things that I'll never stop earning the privilege to wear the nation's cloth. Right. I'll never stop owing it to the fallen to live well. Right. Because Chris doesn't have the choice of what type of husband he's going to be, but I do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Aaron doesn't have the choice of what type of father he's going to be, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I owe it to them to not just be good, but be great, man. And that's what I focus on every day is what am I doing to make those better for knowing me? Because that's all I like. That's all I want from you, man. I don't want anything from you, just to know whenever you pick that phone up and it says John Wayne on there, you're like, oh, snap, son. Right. That you are better for knowing me.
Yeah. That is the best shit you could ever say. Thank you so much, man, for like sharing your story. Cause it's just fucking incredible to me. It blows my mind.
You're worth it.
Stop. Stop it. You see what I'm saying about this guy? He's the fucking best. Like there's no one better, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. Since the day I met you, you've been one of the best humans I've ever been around. And you're just unbelievable.
No, but I mean that. Like I've got to tell you that like I don't say that to make you blush or whatever. Like I don't take lightly the fact that you want me to come to your house and to interview me and to know about me, because the Vietnam guys didn't get that. Right.
I know.
Right. And I'll never forget that. So I don't take this lightly, brother. I don't take these invitations. I don't take this friendship lightly, man. And so like, you are worth fighting for, right? Like that's, this country that by the way, we fought and bled for to get 248 years ago, not with diplomacy, right? But with Americans dying.
Yeah.
Right. It came here because of Americans, not because we have the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Right. And so that's when I say, like, we are worth fighting for. We just got to remember that.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I also believe it.
Yeah.
What do you think what is like your daily routine like? Like when you wake up, like you got to be a routine
I'm
guy.
a 5 a.m. guy.
Yeah. So am I.
Yeah. I'm a 5 a.m. guy. Gratitude. Like I wake up for anybody else. And the first thing I do is just prayer, meditation. That's to your point about gratitude. I give it to God. I'm a very, faithful guy. And obviously we didn't have time. I can go into how my faith has just changed my life, because you even said it right. Nobody does what happened to me that day and lives.
No, it's just
with God,
incredible.
it happens.
With God, but
right?
God,
right?
Yep.
And there's no medical book that says I should be alive, but
no.
with God. And so anyway, like that's the first thing that I start every single day is just getting in the Word and knowing Him, right? And having that gratitude. So after that, then my wife wakes up and we're reading the Bible in a year. And it's been fun. Like, it's not like every single chapter, but we're reading the story of the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. As it actually happened. And so that's been fun to do. And then just get at it, man. I go in the gym and get stupid. This is not a finished socket, as you can tell, with the stupid green hose and all that. So I haven't been able to work out like I did. But again,
what is the green hose?
It's a hose that there's a pump in my foot that sucks air out of here. Like you see that
to keep it suction to you.
Bingo.
Okay.
And so I just go out to the gym, man, and get silly. Like,
what kind of workouts are you doing?
Yeah, I do a lot of body weight stuff. Right. I'm not trying to get big, because the bigger I am, the more weight on the leg, the harder it is. Right. So it's a lot of, VersaClimber type stuff, burpees, pull-ups,
high intensity interval
stuff.
Yeah,
man, just being in shape, moving my body. That way, if I'm on a mountain, everything I do is about hunting.
Right.
Like, I wish we had time to talk more about hunts, because that's I live to hunt.
Well, we could talk about hunts right now.
Yeah.
We got time. We got time. They're working
Like,
over there.
I don't drink. I don't go to happy hours. I don't go to, social networking stuff. I go to work, I go home, and I hunt. Right.
And you have, so do you, is the logistics company your daily operate that you're like operating that daily?
Yeah.
So how many hunts a year do you think you get to do? Because what part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Dallas.
So you're in Dallas.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's
I get
all
out, probably
types
do
of
5
shit.
to 10 hunts a year.
Okay.
And hog hunts are in there. I try to do one epic one like last year, going to the Arizona Strip. I'm going to do a mountain lion hunt here this year.
Who's taking you on that?
Oh, I knew you'd ask me. Ted Nugent got me into.
Oh, Ted did?
Ted, let me find his name.
I know who it is.
Okay.
I know who it is. When you say the name, because I've talked to him. He is like the houndsman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you know, by the way, that it's illegal to hunt bear in Colorado?
In the spring.
In
the fall, it's not.
And that since there are too many bears, that they hire professional hunters to hunt a bear, kill it, dig a hole, and bury it.
Yep. Instead of allowing this is the it's bullshit.
There's no science
zero science behind it. It's just, we'll just take taxpayer money instead of collecting money from hunters that are going to go out there, kill it, ethically kill it, and use every part of that animal pretty much. I mean, it's in Colorado, you have to use everything.
Yeah.
That giant mountain lion I killed, I ate that whole thing. Everything. Used all of it. And he's still at the taxidermist, or else we'd be looking at him right now.
This one, I'm going to give Scott Young is his name.
Yes, yep. I know. I've talked to Scott. I know exactly what you're talking about. He is the houndsman.
So we're going to go into.
He's like the government houndsman.
Yeah,
which is badass.
So we're going to go. Like, if you want to go, I mean, if you got time, I'll definitely.
When you get here, because I'm sure it's going to be one of those things where he's like, "Hey, we got a fresh snow coming."
It's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yep. So whenever that happens, call me and I'll pick you up from the airport and we'll go. Because
I'm going to stick it, by the way, like that.
Oh hell yeah! You got to do it.
You
got to do it with a bow. It's fucking awesome. That's how I did mine. It's and I have friends that have done it with like handguns and stuff like that. And they're like, dude, I wish I would have done it with a bow.
Absolutely.
Because it's one of those hunts that like you're gonna do it once and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to do that again because it's a really difficult hunt.
Yeah.
Like, and there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. You said we'll be on horseback.
Oh yeah.
I said that's what I told him. Like, look, I want epic. Let's go out there and let's get Western, baby.
I would love to do that with you. That would be so much. That would be so much fun. I'm actually doing another one, and I have a cabin up there in Fairplay, which is like just south of Breckenridge.
Okay,
I don't know if you know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's South Park, basically. And so I have another one that's going to happen up there. It's not my hunt. I probably won't kill a lion for a long time because I just people want me to come on their lion hunts. I'm like, sure, but that's how I am. When I played football, if the guy next to me made a play, I felt like I made the play.
Absolutely.
Right? So when I'm hunting with somebody, whenever they get it done, I'm just as jacked up as if I did it, if not more jacked up.
I was just about to say that when we take veterans on hunt, they're standing over that animal, and you can see they're all jacked up on Mountain Dew because they just
shaking.
Like I get off. Yeah.
So when I got done playing, when I found hunting, I was like, man, this is fucking awesome because it gives me a purpose to train.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like something that I train every day, and I do jujitsu as well, just because I come from a wrestling background and striking and all that stuff, and I love it. So that gives me it. But
I do boxing a lot.
So you like to do boxing? You like striking?
Guy Metzger, he was a UFC 13 champ.
Yeah,
I train with him twice a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
So him holding the mitts and that's,
doesn't it feel good?
It's the best.
Well, it hits your nervous system so hard.
The neuroplasticity. Jab, cross, hook. Right.
Yeah. Remembering all the combinations, and then when you start doing combinations without them saying anything, they're just moving and you're doing it.
And then you're doing counters and
it's the best
counters. Parries,
it's awesome. And it feels good knowing you just whip someone's ass. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I tell everybody. I'm telling everybody, like, throw the fitness aside. Like, yeah, you get in shape doing that. Like, one, there's the practicality of every man should know how to punch somebody in the face if they need to and defend themselves. Right. There's the neuroplasticity of those fast twitch muscles of not only moving, but putting in together, jab, cross, hook, whatever it is. Like learning this. So for me, I got a traumatic brain injury, getting blown up like I did. Right. So having to go through those motions and getting that hamster back on the wheel and running his ass off like he needs to be. Right. So you have that part of it. Then there's, for me, the insecurity level I have as being an amputee, never been in a fight one-legged. Right.
Right.
I think I can do it. I don't know. So now, like, putting that into motion, I got to fight southpaw.
So you had to switch up.
I had to switch up because the power comes from the rear leg. Right. And so there's just that confidence of knowing what it's like to.
I didn't even think of that, man. I just didn't, for some reason, I didn't click in my head. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
he probably, if you're right-handed, you know, because that's the thing about striking that I love too, is that because when you run, it's opposite hand, opposite foot, right?
Right.
When you box, it is same hand, same foot.
Yep.
Everything. And then like the angles that you create and everything. It's like, I love it. Like I love striking.
I'm the same way, man.
Absolutely love it. So I'm glad I did it. I did it every off season while I was playing because I thought it helped with my pass rush so much.
Yeah.
Because you could just see like the way hands would come. You know how to slip them and move and catch your angles and stay square to where you're trying to head.
Right. And it's fun.
And it's fun. You know how to level change too.
Yeah.
So level changing that stuff, and it's fun, and it's like a release to go out there and just crack the pads a little.
Well, and I do it with a Navy SEAL, another Green Beret, and my business partner. Right?
So it's like a little tribe.
Yeah, it is exactly what it
exactly.
is.
That's how I treat the. I work out like in the gym by myself, but I obviously can't just go roll by myself and get to. So that is like it's starting to create like a little tribe there of just bigger guys that don't have anybody else to roll with. So we roll with each other, you know, just in there trying to choke each other.
Hey, get over here.
So it's like, and they're all better than me. So it's like super humbling.
That's what you want.
Yeah. They're all way
better.
Dude,
whenever I got in the freaking ring with Guy Metzger the first time, I never will forget. He was like, he gave me my headgear and mouthpiece and everything. And I was like, hey man, do you need yours? He's like, nah, I don't need it.
So you're not going to hit me, don't worry.
Guess what? He didn't. But I never will forget the first
because
time.
you spend the whole time playing defense.
Right. But the first time I hit him though, because I went to work, right? Kind of the same thing as he did punch. I just did a counter and not even thinking, and I hit him. But then I was scared when I hit him. I was like, fuck, I hit Guy Metzger, dog. You know, don't hurt me. But he's just so good, man. And to your point, like you got to have somebody better than you.
Yeah, you have to be. Well,
because they see things that you can't.
Somebody told me before that if you're the smartest one in the room,
leave the room.
You're in the wrong room.
Yeah,
and that's what I always try to do. I always try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, stronger than me, better than me, whatever it is, so I can learn something from them.
Everything,
and I like to compete. Everything. And I like to compete, right? So I want to be able to. If I'm just winning all the time, then it's like
it's not fun.
Yeah, you don't get better, right?
I'm telling you, man, you grow through the struggle.
Yeah, you have
to.
Like
I think so many times, like there's that comfort crisis kind of goes back to where people are just so blinded by getting away from pain.
Yeah,
like the medical field that we want you to have no pain, or psychiatric, we want you to never think anything bad, right? Rather than like that's what sobriety is such a great blessing to me is that
how long have you been sober?
11 years.
Nice, good for you.
And it's taught me to run to the pain and sit in it.
Yeah,
not run to it, but not run from it.
Right,
like when it's there, to actually sit in
embrace
it, right? And it's okay. Here it is. What's happening here, right? Rather than, oh no, I got to go home and quote relax, right?
Oh,
so I'm going to drink a beer and relax, or just forget
self-medicating.
Yeah, and so that's where my growth has just been exponential because I've gotten sober and now I sit in it rather than going away from it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the mental toughness. That's the thing. When I got to the NFL, there was guys that just weren't mentally tough. I was like, how did you get this far?
Just that God-given talent.
Like your talent has gotten you this. It's crazy because there's some guys that I'm like, man, if you just had a little bit of that mentality of like, I'm not going to quit, killer instinct, like you would be an all pro.
Right.
But they just like, when it gets really tough, they just kind of shut it down. This is good enough. And they're still really good. And I'm like, dude, you could be unbelievable because you have so much talent. But
see, I can't even fathom not having that killer instinct.
Right. Me neither. Neither can I. I don't know what that's like. I've always had it. I've always just been that, I think when I was like really young, it wasn't there. But like the first time I stepped onto like a competitive field, it was there. Like it was just like
couldn't agree more.
I refused.
When I remember it, I can distinctly remember like the first time where I was like pissed that I lost was in Boy Scouts. You remember Boy Scouts? You had to do those wooden cars that
I know what you're talking about.
That you come down in those little cars that you'd had to whittle or whatever. I got third place and I was pissed. Oh, I was like,
So it's funny because I always loved to do things that how well I did determined how hard I physically worked.
Yeah.
Like I loved that idea because it's something that I'm totally in control of.
Right.
And those times where, how it is, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing that shit today.
Right.
and then you do it, and then you do it again and again and again. It's not about doing it one time. It's about doing it 1,000 times.
I'll take discipline over motivation 10 times out of 10.
Me too. I can't like sit in my own skin when I don't get up and do what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Like when I just don't do it,
I just know it's there.
Yeah. It's like looming over me all day long,
Right.
And it's like, it's just an icky ass feeling. I don't like it, Yeah. So that's just the, I don't know why it's like that, but it's just, I find great satisfaction in just like accomplishing something difficult.
Well, again, knowing it's hard and then go punch it in the mouth.
Right.
That's what I tell my, like, even with my kids, cause I got, 20-year-old and 19-year-old, they're going off, and like with exercise, I was like, hey guys, check it out. I don't want to work out every day. Like,
yeah,
here's a Fox News alert. Like, dad likes to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos too.
Right.
Right. It's just having that discipline that when you want to do this, say no, that inner bitch you're talking about, right? Like, shut up. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're doing it.
This is going to happen. Like, you, perfect example. I had surgery this year. Like, this has been, like, from a physical perspective, one of the worst years I've had since getting shot.
What'd you have surgery on?
My stump. I had nerve cut out of it. Neuroma cut out.
Did that help?
I think so.
What was the reason for having it?
I had a neuroma. So there was a spot right here that you think about having your funny bone on your heel.
The ulnar nerve, yeah.
And every time you take a step, you hit your funny bone, but on your stump, right? Like,
so you've been dealing with that for how long?
Since I got shot. And I've just been
just been dealing with it?
And I'm fine. I was like, you know what? But anyways, I came back from the hospital. You know what I did? Got on a row machine, and I did every morning for 15 minutes. I do the row machine one-legged.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what am I going to do? Sit there and do nothing?
Yeah.
No excuses. And I went out. I'd literally crutch out to the gym. I'd sit on my box, then, like a jump box or whatever. I'd get my battle ropes. I'll do 30 seconds of battle ropes. I'll go do some pull-ups. Like, I'll just do something.
Just get the blood flowing.
Yeah, man. And
it feels good. Get the muscles pumping.
Right.
Get your heart rate up a little bit. It feels, it is, that's an endorphin thing, right?
Right.
I'm the same way. Like, you texted me. I was getting ready to do a workout when you texted me that you just landed. I was like, oh, you landed a little early. Yeah. I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm not going to work out. So now that's going to loom over me all day, and then tonight I'll have to come down here and knock one out.
Yeah.
But it's not that's the great part about having something at your house, right?
Right.
A lot of people don't have that
luxury,
right? So they got to wake up early as hell.
If you don't, yes, and not yes, but yes, and I'm a firm believer in, if it's that important to you, you'll figure it out.
Exactly.
When someone says, I don't have the time, that isn't an excuse for me. When you say you don't have the time, that means it's not important to you.
Yeah. That means you're not waking up early enough.
Right. Because I have
a gym
in my garage, and guess what? I figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a lot of money, but you know what I did? Like, once a paycheck, I'd go buy a dumbbell.
Yeah. Go buy a piece.
I just put it in there. And when I don't have it, guess what? That floor will never get tired of you pushing it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right? There's something you can always do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, man. People don't realize the value of a push up and a sit up.
Right.
I mean, you can get in pretty damn good shape doing burpees.
Bro.
Burpees will fuck you up.
Run a mile, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, run a mile.
You'll be cashed.
Go do that.
You'll be cashed.
Right.
You'll
go do that.
Go do that every day.
Yeah.
And it's not going to hurt you.
That's anytime I travel, that's my workout.
You do 100 of those?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to try it. Send that to me.
Okay.
Send it to me and I'll try it.
Yeah.
I hate running.
You know why I run? Because it's hard.
Yeah. Running is hard as hell. All right. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave a review and a rating. Follow me on Instagram at DerekWolfe_95. Follow me on X at Derek_Wolfe95. And follow the Wolfe Untamed YouTube account. Be sure to like and subscribe, please. Thank you.